Hello everyone. Please guys, next time I want class in time, okay? So now I'm going to report to management. Okay? So we're gonna start our next lesson. It's private expenditure vs private vs public expenditure. So private expenditure is basically the money spent by the government in different ways. Marco May, please here. Can you write this? I want your attention here, me. So private public expenditure. So what is the difference between private and public expenditure? Anyone can give me an idea?
Public,
Exactly. Public, government. Private, people, you consumers, households, and companies. How you spend your money. So basically the public expenditure is government, and everything which falls out of the public expenditure, which is the rest, households, families, companies will be private expenditure. So public expenditure is made by the central government, for example. It will be made by local authorities, and by regions. If we talk about public expenditure, you remember when we saw the aggregate demand, which is consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus X less imports, with GDP, consumption, investment, government expenditure, exports means imports. The public expenditure will be government expenditure. So government expenditure, public expenditure mean the same, both of them, okay? So this is the public, it's money spent by the authorities. Mom, can you just please smile? Okay? Okay, so we have public expenditure made by the central government, local authorities, or regions. Okay? So, I will ask you a question. Marco, if I'm the government, okay, and you're a private company, and you're a private company, you have nothing to do with me, but the government needs to build new apartments, okay? We need to build new apartments for people working in the government, new offices, so we will be made by money from us, from the government. But we don't know, we need a construction company. You're a construction company, I'm the government. So I give you money, give you money, and then you will be the person responsible to build the premises, the offices, headquarters, or office premises, government. So the money you spend will be public or private expenditure? Exactly. It doesn't matter if it's me directly to spend the money, you know, like for example, if the government itself buys supplies for schools, new chairs, new tables, new computers, or if I spend my money in medical material, right? Then it will be direct. But if I give money to Marco or Mom, and they have a construction company, instead of buying myself directly, I say, okay, Mom, Marco, I don't want to deal with this because we are just the government, we are not experts. So you will be the one personal, like buying and making buildings for us. This money, even you manage the money, it comes from the government. So it's public expenditure. So this comes to the next point. Public expenditure there is two kinds of public expenditure. Guys, attention. Exhaustive spending. What does it mean, exhaustive spending? This is the most... Mom, I'm going to just sit you there, okay? Pay attention. Exhaustive spending means just the money that the government spends directly. It's just the most basic definition of public expenditure. So if the government buys things, so it's direct spend by the government. Example, the government buys goods and services, but the government can construct roads, the money that they pay to the police, right? If they buy material, medical equipment, for example, if they themselves buy the medical equipment, will be exhaustive spending. Now, the money that they don't spend, the government itself directly, but through other agents in the economic system, either by households or investors, but they don't spend the money themselves. It's they give the money to someone else, to a third person, and this money spend the money, but the money comes from the government. It will be transfer payments. Okay, I would like to ask if anyone among you have an idea or an example what could be a transfer payment, which is public expenditure, but it's a transfer payment, which is indirect way that government have to spend money. Transfer payments will be what? Example, Rachel? Sorry? Subsidizing. For example, more specific.
Like subsidize to medical.
If they buy the medical equipment themselves, it's exhaustive spending. If they pay to the doctor, it's exhaustive spending. Okay? It's when you give money to some other agent and it works for the government. For example, it will be, when you are an employee. Example will be transfers to unemployed people or pensions or grants to students maybe, or money that they give to the companies because they have a very good performance, subsidized. So if it's transferred to unemployed, let's say that Daniel is unemployed, he has no job. So I'm the government, I give money to him. Daniel will buy clothes, food, will pay the rent. I'm not doing anything. I'm the government, but I don't even know where you're spending your money. But the money you're spending, it doesn't fall into the category of private expenditure. Even if you spend the money, it's not private because it comes from the government pockets. It's not because of your work. It's not because you invest in capital. It's not because you invest in land. It's because the government subsidizes somehow the money. So the government doesn't have to buy you a house, doesn't have to go to the supermarket with you and buy, hey, Daniel, buy this, buy that. It's like give you money and then you spend the money, right? The same for students. I'm a student, the government gives me money, okay? So to support myself. This easy, no? Private expenditure, public expenditure. Now we're focusing on public expenditure here. So up to now we have seen that public expenditure, this is not very important, it's just money spent by government, either central, regional, authorities, the police, the court, and public expenditure, this is much more important. Basically it's telling you there is two ways that the government spend money. Direct, by them, they spend the money, the government, they go and they buy what they need, or they build, or they hire people, or they build roads, right? Police, medical equipment, the courts, the teachers if they work for the government, and then transfer payment is okay. We need to support the economy. We are not going to deal with it. We are going to just leave the money to the different agents, and they will do their own decisions. Which is the difference between one and the other one? In this one, the government allocate the resources. It's much more precise what to spend and what's going to support, and he takes control of the money. In this one, is not the government taking the decision, but an individual agent, which is going to be the main responsible to allocate resources. Do you understand? Allocation of resources. So here, government exhaustive spending, he allocates resources, he says where to spend, how to spend, and who to pay. Here the government gives the money, but when he has given the money to different agent, this agent is going to say how to spend it, in what to spend it, and when to spend it. Okay? So this is the difference. Here in the direct money, government takes decision in everything. Here the government just takes decision in who is going to give the money. But then after, he doesn't know where it's going to. Okay? We use the public expenditure just for all these kind of different goods and services the government can buy. How the government gets money? Guys, did you finish yet? How do the government get money? The most basic and the main core, what has been traditionally most important method coming from the government to get money, is by taxation. So if we talk about the public expenditure, financiation, there are three main ways according to the book. One is taxation. Okay. Very rudimentary. It's like you tax people in their income. Either companies, or either households, or either also banks. You know, they have to pay a tax, usually a percentage in income. Okay, but it depends on the method. So one is taxation, and then one is, okay, borrowing from the profits of state-owned companies. Okay, in several countries, in a few countries, the size of the government has a quite measurable one, or it has a big size. You know, you can consider some states where the government has companies, which is they are not privatized; they state-owned companies. For example, in France, Spain, big part of Europe, the phone market, the phone companies, they used to be owned by the government. Electricity companies owned by the government. Oil companies, the gas in Russia. Especially in Russia, there is a big amount of companies owned by the government, so somehow the government has some hand on it. So all these companies, they are companies at the end of the day, they get money. They provide you a service. So for example, here the railway station, I think, it's owned by the government. So the money you get from these companies, it serves to finance the public expenditure. For example, the money you spend to buy your ticket to go from here to Bangkok, right? That money of the passengers, it could be used to increase the railway network, for example, or to buy new cars or new wagons. So maybe use that money to build new hospital in some region. So this is the way. This is taxation, just in consumption. When you consume, for example, in consumption there is taxation on borrowing money. Okay, and the third one is privatization. So we have the three different ways how the government fundraises itself. So taxation, borrowing money from their own state-owned companies, not from a third agent, not from banks. They borrow money. It doesn't mean that they use the money as they want from the companies. You know, they use for projects. They have to give back the money, you know. And privatization, it means the process from which the state-owned companies go to be private companies. So the government sometimes they sell their own companies. So let's say you have a phone company, it's owned by the government, and the government maybe it's not very well versed or experienced in how to manage because you need some human capital on it, or they are not very efficient. So usually the price they give this responsibility to someone which is going to increase the productivity of the company. Is going to see this company increase their incomes and resources and revenues. So we give to the public, to the private companies, the control of these companies. Understood? For example, it's better explained in the page 112. Guys, page 112. So, financing public expenditure. When we go taxation, okay, if a country has a high real GDP, so higher the real GDP is, then higher it should be the amount in taxes, right? Why, if there is a higher GDP, it will be the higher the amount in taxes? Guys, I'm asking a question. Why, if the GDP is bigger, there is more money in taxes? It's in the book. Well, if the GDP is higher, there is more people earning money, the incomes increase, the production, and then you can increase the amount by increasing by the proportion of money that you take, right? So if there is a higher income, there is higher amount of money to be taken by the government in the shape of taxes. But also it says in the book, the political party which is planning to raise tax rates must be careful because these measures are widely considered very unpopular among politicians. So if you are a politician or future president of a government and you say to people you are going to increase the taxes, the people can resent this measure and you can see yourself in a situation that you lose the elections. So it says in the book, if people resent paying taxes or raising tax rates, may not be very successful in increasing tax revenue, but may instead increase the size of the informal economy. If we increase the taxes, people can be prompt to fall in the black market to avoid paying. So many countries, for example, in my country, your salary in papers is 1,200 euros, right? And you pay taxes for those 1,200. And then there is 700 euros, they are not everywhere. So in theory, you are earning, I don't know, 1,800, 1,900. But your tax is not for 1,800, but for just 1,200. So the government just gets money according to 1,200. The government does not know that the employees are paid under the table. The other amount, the remaining amount of money. Also, we must be careful when we want to raise taxes. We can be reluctant to raise taxes if the government thinks that workers will work for fewer hours or emigrate to other countries or multinational companies. If the tax is very high, and people want to create companies, they are not going to stay in the country. They will go somewhere else where they pay less. So if I'm a manager in a company, or let's say I work in the bank sector, right? I work in the bank sector. What is going to happen? I'm going to work in Europe, where I have to pay a huge amount of proportion of my incomes to the government, or I will move to Hong Kong, where it's so easy to open a company and work for the bank sector. So we have to be careful. First, because they are quite unpopular among people raising taxes, because it can promote the increase of the black markets, okay? And third, because it can encourage people to leave the country or to take the companies out of the company. So it's not that easy, the question of taxation as a way to raise money for the government, by the government, right? Raise funds. The case of Estonia. Estonia is becoming very powerful in Europe when we talk about companies, because they are making it extremely easy to register your own company. and you have a lot of facilities in order to establish your company in Estonia. You pay almost, the taxes rate is very low. Basically, there is no differences in taxation. It's a flat. The book is called flat tax, flat taxes. It means you pay the same. Either you earn 10,000 or 15,000 flat taxes. So this is the case of Estonia. So I'm going to show you the video. I'm going to show you a video, and you tell me how the government of Estonia make it to increase economically in the last few years. Okay? They use flat taxes, so it means everyone uses the same amount. You know how it works, this, guys? Richard? Okay. So this is the case of Estonia. This is the secret of the economic growth of this country. It was based in the taxes. So this country doesn't apply higher taxes. Okay? If you are working the company and there is a worker working there and there is the owner, you don't pay more because you earn more money. Or you don't pay more, you pay the same. It means you do well. You have to pay this amount of money every single year, right? So now we're going to see the case of Estonia.